Okay, my outstanding friends, Roger once again, and I am calling for your help to or to verify one way or the other whether this was true or not. This is supposed to be in near Gumption, Texas, and it is called the Mysterious Flesh Pit. And this, I know what it is if it's real. And I've studied the mud fossils, and apparently this was a tourist attraction. And there was a big area here, which was the main bath and the entrance area, and they had like tunnels running into it and so forth. I'm going to show you what I think it is biologically, because they called it a superorganism. Supposedly, this was dedicated as a national park by Jimmy Carter. And it was there, and it even shows how much they charge to get in and everything here. And this is supposedly from Mysterious Flesh Pit National Park. I don't know. And I need somebody to corroborate this one way or the other. If it's true, it's true. If it's not true, it's not true, and we just go on about our lives. But I can tell you what, I understand mud fossils, and I understand that this could well be true, because they were that size and larger. If this is just Gumption, Texas, right in that area, this is a lung. All right, I'm telling you right now, it's a lung. Let me show you a mud fossil lung. You see this? There it is right there. There's the main entrance, and there's a tube that runs down into it. One of these tubes here, I'm sure it was it, because the tube runs down into it. Now, these are the air sacs. I'm going to show you the anatomical in a minute, but there's a main entrance, and then it runs off into all these other air sacs. Now, let's come over and look at it in the drawings in the anatomical. But each one of these were pools of water, and they were baths. Like, you see this? They could come in here and linger and go into the bath and so forth. And whatever waters were in there, I don't know. But they claim that they had all kinds of effects on people. Oh, there's the prices right there. And this is the bath hours, and closed during federal holidays. Now, is this true? I don't know. I can't tell you one way. I can't really find a whole lot about this, to be honest. I'm a little skeptical, but I can see what it is. Now, somebody either had a hell of a good imagination and understood what a lung is and realized that these creatures were big enough to have an underground lung, and they claimed that there was a giant disaster there in 2007 or something like that. Maybe it was earlier than that. But anyway, and like a whole bunch of people were killed. Now, I don't know if any of this is true. I need somebody to verify this one way or the other. But let me show you what a lung is and how this could very well be true if it was really there. All right, I told you this was a lung. This is exactly the same thing. There's a tube that comes down into the lung and feeds a big network. And then they all run off to wherever they go into these alveoli. Now, what do the alveoli look like? They look like that right there. Basically, almost identical to what you saw at this is this big cavity here, let's say, or one in the area here. And then all of the little holes are where the oxygen transfers into your body. Now, let me show you some other lungs I have here. All right, so here's the flesh pit. Now, the guy might have died, he didn't die standing up, he might have died lying down just like this, and had that tube coming right out of him to the main chamber, and then all of these were running around it. If it's real, it could be real, because that's exactly what I would expect to see if all of the things that they're saying are true, or it's just some big made-up story. I don't know. This lung was DNA certified human. This one just gushed blood out of it. The blood ran out, literally ran out of it. You see this? And that it came out of virtually all of these holes here. You see, there are little tiny blood vessels that leaked blood out because it died laying on its like this. And all of the blood ran down to here and drained out of these alveoli. And that's what they are, is alveoli. That is not... That's what it is. I mean, how could you miss it? It can't be missed. So the mud fossils are extremely real, and I have giants too, and those are also DNA tested. I was DNA tested human, so there's no question about it. I never had this DNA tested, but I can tell you what it is, some kind of waterfowl. I would say it was a goose. This is my buddy, Caesar. You see his feathers in his head? Caesar Augustus. All right, so, and here's the giants. Here's my giant fingernail, well, that's with the fingernail side. You see how big that is? Huge. And that's one fingertip, tiniest tip. And here's the fingerprints from it. And they're just as good as yours or mine. And my finger is just the width of one ridge. These are the sweat pores. And it peels right off just like that. And then I have one other I'll quickly show you, and then I'll get out of the way here. This one is a hand that I also had DNA tested, and this is the hand. And that's a left hand, splay yours out, you'll have that tendon, you'll have this bumper pad, and this is the grip skin that peels off just like it did on that big fingertip. You see it peeling off? That's because it's real, real tough. All right, and I have a bunch of extra parts from this too. Some of them have been CAT scanned, DNA certified. It is what it is. All right, everybody knows what petra is. Well, guess what? It's a piece of flesh, and it's literally a piece of muscle that they have. These are sarcomeres. Now, pay real close attention. You see these separations? You see these separations? Look at this block right here. You see the difference in it between this part of the block? This is one block. It's called a sarcomere. And these are what pinch together to make your muscles work. This moves into this, and it pinches, and that's what makes muscles work. These things here, you need an electron microscope to see in us. They built buildings out of a couple of thicknesses of them, and that, yes, it is muscle, and it is tissue, and here's what's inside that building, is more muscle and blood and connective tissue and body parts, because they dug into a living creature. And I'm going to show you the sarcomeres. Don't forget, look at this little roughy looking stuff and this. I'm going to show you the actual anatomical pictures of this right here in us. You see that? That's the sarcomeres. They pull in, they contract like this. These are the blocks of sarcomeres. We saw the white and then the scruffy looking stuff. Go back and look at it if you missed it. This is what they do. They contract. And that is what the muscle block is that we just saw. And if that is just a muscle block of a sarcomere taken with basically an electron microscope, think of how big that creature was in petra as well. Okay, my friends, as I said, I am still a bit skeptical, but what led me to this? This came out, and it's from a guy, Roman MC, did a very nice job in the presentation of this. If it is real, I understand what it is, the biology of it, if it's real. Now, here he is, and I'm going to let him speak about this flesh pit, and apparently there was a disaster there. So let's let him speak, and again, I am a fair user, and I'm trying to present the evidence so that everybody can see what is the possibilities. All right, here we go.
Do you ever stumble across something on the internet that just kind of throws you off for a couple days?
Yep.
Well, welcome to the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. Today is going to be a timeline breakthrough.
First of all, I want to make one statement. I consider myself as informed as anyone about this kind of stuff. And this is the first time I've ever heard of this flesh pit thing. And it supposedly was part of the government, a government national park. Now, apparently this has been covered up as far as I'm concerned, because if I haven't heard of it, and I just went to investigate it, and all I'm getting is Reddit and these kind of things that sort of seem, the kind of stuff that you say, oh, well, I don't know about that. But let's see what he has to say. And I understand the biology of exactly what the pictures are and everything. And if all this stuff is true, it appears he has documentation. Let's just see if you... What we need to do is to get support.
World building exercise and overall incredible concept art breakdown. I will leave a link to his Patreon and his Tumblr where you can see the art for yourself.
When they say the art, now this is where you start getting worried. Is it just somebody drawing something up and making something that sounds cool? I don't know.
It is incredible. Go check him out. He has done excellent work creating this. Let's go ahead and start at the beginning. About 14 million years ago, there was a family of mustelids. I think it was a family of ferrets that decided to move into the mystery flesh pit. Over the course of the next 14 million years, evolution has done them catastrophically dirty. Otherwise, nothing really to talk about up until the Native American folklore stating that a great spirit was able to calm down a massive dragon. And
I have some information on dragons. So if you've been around me, you understand that as well. And they were massive, and they were here. There's no question about it. So the Native Americans said that they calmed down a massive dragon. And, well, let him continue. Here goes. But this is the dragon part I didn't want you to miss.
and put him to sleep underneath the earth. And from this spot where he was laid to rest, bring forth healing waters that gave beneficial properties to those who drink it. Moving forward in time, in 1923, Anchor Mineral Company was founded. In 1958, it later went on to merge with Dynamic Equipment to create the company Anodyne. In 1973, the Mystery Flesh Pit was discovered by a group of oil crew as they were trying to dig down into what they believed was to be an aquifer, but ended up being a little bit more fleshy than most aquifers that we're used to.
Now, I have shown fleshy things all over the earth, and they are all over the earth. Now, this apparently was in some form of watery condition that kept it from solidifying totally. And if you go into all of these cave systems and you look at all of these things that are in these cave systems, a lot of it you can still see a very good biological footprint. Some of it is very hard to determine. However, caves are digestive systems, blood systems, arteries, veins, all that kind of stuff. Wherever passages were through the body. And this is a lung, if it's real.
This group was led by Jim Jackson. He's introduced as one of the founders, and he continues on for many, many years as almost the face of the Mystery Flesh Pit. He ends up sending a lot of letters to one of his friends, detailing detailing a lot of his personal letters and feelings over to his friend, thanking him for taking care of Samantha and the baby while he's away with this project. And he just reminds me of Cave Johnson. We're skipping a little bit ahead, but in 1975, there's a lady who went on to an interview with the Austin Sun after a tour she had at the Mystery Flesh Pit, where she, in no kind terms, called all of the people that were currently working at the Mystery Flesh Pit monsters and just absolutely cruel people for what they were doing to whatever that creature is. And he just went on to be like, well, yeah, I hear your point, but we're doing everything we can. You want to go get some food? Come on, me and you. In 1974, the New Jackson survey was conducted where he was able to find the Fondue Village. No idea what fondue is supposed to be in this case. The Pleasure Domes, a series of spas that house this amniotic fluid that has beneficial properties when isolated down into certain compounds. It has cancer-fighting properties, de-aging properties.
All right, this, if it was a lung, all of those things would be there, 100% for sure, because your lungs have to be able to protect you from invasion, because you're breathing in all kinds of stuff. And if your lungs have the correct bacteria in them, which is what it is they're bathing in a type of bacteria that is loaded with these immunological substances and enzymes and catalysts. And they're bathing in it. Because that's what's in your lungs, if you're healthy. If you're immunocompromised, it means you don't have the correct bacterial response to these invasive molecules. They are breaking through the mucus. They're breaking through the protective chemistry that you have in you because it's not there, because the bacteria is not there to create it. That is the key. It's probiotics. And that is what they're bathing in, is probiotics. And even if you look up, just type in National Institute of Health COVID-19 probiotics. And they, just a few months ago, they put it out and they said, yes, everybody should be taking probiotics for this crisis. And there's not a word been spoken about it. So that's just my input. But what they are washing themselves in is enzymes and catalysts and bacterias and the fluids that are normally in there to protect you. And they were protecting a dragon, so I mean, that's pretty good protection.
It also has an intoxicating effect on those who drink or bathe in it. Getting back to 1975, beginning in 1975, a 2-year project was performed and conducted where they started installing these blue lighthouse emergency phones into the mystery flesh pit with over 150 miles of cable running through them. These blue lighthouses were used so that if anybody needed to contact the outside world or the directing center at the national park itself, they would be able to, without any charge, at least to get direct contact. If they wanted to reach the outside world, they would have to pay a small fee. In 1976, a new exploration expedition went on to break the record for depth gone down into the earth at 12,000 meters. And also in 1976, the circus clown Chimus incident occurred, where a group of performers went down, I guess to have a good time at the mystery flesh pit, and ended up slipping into a previously undiscovered digestion pit. By the time rescue crews were able to get them out, they had already been partially digested and amalgamated into this roughly 50-person mass of shrieking and screaming human agony. When they tried to apply an antacid to the magnificent ball of suffering that had formed, it flash calcified and is now a permanent fixture at the Mystery Flesh Pit National Park. Remember, kids, always respect the safety rails. In December 1977, the Soviet Academy of Sciences gets in contact with the United States in order to try and form a joint expedition down into the MFP. In 1978, the Grumman Internal Anatomy Vehicles are created, or the IAVs. They are just used in general exploration and were able to open up previously undiscovered areas in the Flesh Pit National Park. October 12, 1979, a joint expedition was conducted by the Soviet Academy of Sciences and the United States Department of the Interior, where they went on an expedition down to about 19,000 meters below Earth's surface within the Mystery Flesh Pit.
You hear that? 19,000 meters? That's way down. Now, I tell you, I respect the Russians. I've worked with them a couple of times, just really on the edge of not really working with them, but I've used their research, and they are very open about their research. As far as I'm concerned, I was pretty impressed.
Just for context, the Kola Super Deep borehole is the, I think, record for the most straight down humanity has ever gotten in terms of digging into Earth's crust, and that was only about 12,000 meters. So,
by the way, they did cap that borehole off, and they found at 12,000 meters down there was literally boiling water. It was saturated with water. Totally unexpected. Everything that they find now, all you ever hear was, oh, we never really expected this, we never expected that. Well, the earth is made of creatures. This is true, and I have shown this over and over and over. And I'm going to show you one thing real quick just to establish the fact that this flesh pit could absolutely, no question, be real. Okay, I got called away, but I believe I was right about in this area where the Kola borehole, and I think I said that they capped it off because they found a ton of water down there and so forth, and it was hot, hot, hot water. Now, let's go forward here.
Most straight down humanity has ever gotten in terms of digging into Earth's crust, and that was only about 12,000 meters, so these people have gone well above and beyond. For this joint expedition, they just wanted to look out for wildlife that may exist within the pit, as well as conduct bioseismic activities, studies, see what's going on, how it reacts, what kind of earthquakes it creates when it moves. as well as to discover other properties of the flesh pit and other different places they might.
They apparently is the story here, and again, this is all new to me, so I need verification. But apparently, they said this was literally a super organism, and they are correct. If this is all true, what they're saying, I understand it was a creature, and it still could possibly be semi-alive.
Might be able to traverse. Continuing on in 1979, the Material Environmental Exploration Vehicles, or the VEEVs, are created. They are these all-terrain vehicles that are able to hold 8 people inside them, as well as a tour guide and 2 pilots. That it's just a way for a lot of tourists to go further into the flesh pit where parts may not have been carved before. In April of 1980, the MFP is brought under control of the United States federal government under the U.S. National Park System by President Carter. In 1981, at the time of the Satanic Panic within the United States, a lot of churches started speaking out against the moral corruption of the Mystery Flesh Pit, and they continued on railing about it until the war on drugs and the AIDS epidemic gave them something else to whine about. In 1984, Anodyne introduces a set of wetware computers, essentially computers made with biologic parts and not manufactured computer chips. It has an incredible amount of storage and RAM for the time. Respectively, it had 4 terabytes of storage and 12 gigabytes of RAM. These are no longer in production due to later events, and they are very difficult and expensive to maintain. Valentine's Day 1985, Coca-Cola introduced the Coca-Cola Heartthrob, a drink that has fluids from the pleasure domes incorporated inside of it. People describe it as having a syrupy sweet taste, along with hints of amaretto and rose water. It also has plenty of intoxicating effects. May 24th, 1988, the summer qualifier for the 3rd annual Roadless Jamboree occurs at the Mystery Flesh Pit. In Halloween of 1992, Caver Coop's Spooky Halloween Carnival is also hosted. In June of 1995, a new control center was unveiled to the public. The point of this control center was to be able to monitor and influence gastric eruptions and muscular activity within the pit, as well as to control.
All right, let me just explain something to you. In some of these biological areas, which I'm telling you, it's just a fact. These were gigantic creatures. I showed you Petra. That one there is pretty well stabilized. There was other areas that the flesh literally is still almost, well, let me show you one, because let me just show you what can happen. And this is also a lung. I forgot all about this. Hold on a second. All right, a friend of mine over in England found this in a salt vat, and this is the lung that he found, and that was when it just came out of the ground. And then this was as it was starting to dry up and deteriorate. You see, this is just like a rock, but now once it dried up, you could see inside of it, and then you wetted it to see what it would look like, and here it is. It takes on the same, just like it was when it was alive. Now, these are the kind of holes that they're going into, and then the alveoli are these round little balls inside there where your oxygen transitions. Now, you see the black and you see the other color here? This is between deoxygenated and oxygenated blood. That's what happens in your lungs. Your lungs get rid of the carbon dioxide, which is the deoxygenated stuff, and they take in oxygen and push it into the other side. All right, and your heart works the same way. It pulls vein blood and it pushes artery blood, pulls and pushes and pulls and pushes, and then it flows into here, and then your liver and all that kind of stuff. But this is what the flesh pit is. Okay, so here we are back at Roman MC. Thank you, my brother. Go to it. Here we go. So they're talking about muscular activity and gastrointestinal things. And if the creature's dead, it will have volcanic activity. That's what volcanoes and eruptions and earthquakes and all that is basically if you took decomposition of biological material. I just showed you how biological they can be. When that starts to give off gases, they will gas. That's what happens. They gas off. And that's what creates the earthquakes and so forth. These creatures were absolutely stunningly gigantic.
Control more neurologic functions and other reactions that the flesh pit had to the outside stimuli. In May 2001, a monorail is announced to the public, but it is not fully built until 2006. Also in autumn of 2006, a pamphlet advertising the pleasure domes is put into circulation. It gives a map of the area as well as recommendations to consult a physician and or spiritual guide before entering into some of the individual spas. In July 4th, 1997, due to the surge of holiday crowd as well as electrical mining, the control center is unable to perform at max capabilities. This combined with excessive rains that induced a choke response within the mystery flesh pit created a catastrophic series of events where many portions of the tunnels and visiting center were crushed underneath the weight of the MFP, which led to hundreds of losses of life, as well as the eventual shutdown of the national park and the restructuring of Anodyne. After 2007 and the restructuring of Anodyne Company, Grumman IAVs are sold off and traded by card collectors as exotic cars, as well as class action lawsuits and out-of-court settlements skyrocket for the remaining Anodyne shell of a company that is left to deal with these court cases. Those who continually visited the pleasure domes also start to experience withdrawals as they are unable to get back to the supply they need. In 2011,
Let me just tell you something. If you have problem with the bacteria in your body, you are going to have all kinds of issues with your mental situation as well. And I'm going to show you that because that is bacteria runs your life. If the bacteria in your body is not breaking down the particles that come into your body, you cannot absorb them. If the bacteria is not there to protect your membranes, because that's exactly where the bacteria lives, is they're membrane-bound bacteria. They live in these little pockets of fluids, and then when they see something come to invade, they attack it, and they send out mucus to keep it out, and they send out chemicals to break down products in your digestive system so that you can take them into your body and use them to nurture you. All right, if you don't have them, you're unnurtured. You're in an immune compromised situation because your body cannot respond. It's the bacteria. So these people were going to there a lot, and that you're going to be a part of that is going to be your bacteria is going to get in you, and then it's going to be doing whatever it was. And it appears it was doing good stuff. Now I don't know. They say they had withdrawals. Now it's either doing good stuff or taking over your body. I don't know, but if this is all true, and again, this really intrigues me because I can't prove it one way or the other.
The Coca-Cola Heartthrob is discontinued. In 2012, a film titled A Fire of the Deep was released. It tells the heroic story of a group of miners that are trying to rescue tourists that are trapped in VEEVs and are trying to escape from parasitic and hunting organisms that are currently attacking them. In the end, the miners ended up giving their life, but did help to get the 2 VEV up to the surface. In 2015, an art piece titled Lynn Rising near Midland was published, and it details the events after the choke response where multiple portions of the flesh pit were ejected out into the open. And August 2018, a home video is recorded of a PSA announcing that there will be bioseismic activity for a certain set of counties within Texas. It shows the initial shocks or aftershocks of this bioseismic activity. And at the time of recording, that's the end for the timeline. I have left out some details such as descriptions of some of the macrofauna and
All right, these are all possible too, because in us, these are little tiny creatures living in us that look like these things. Now, living in a gigantic creature, would they be big? I suppose they probably would be. You know, the funny thing is, all of my stuff that I've tested or I've looked at has blood. They're all red-blooded creatures, basically, across the board. Although I see some blue things that, blue bloods possibly. Now, the key is, I thought maybe they had gigantic platelets and gigantic cells and all this stuff if they were gigantic creatures, but that does not appear to be the way. It appears that the blood cells, you know, they need some more work done on that. But I bought, you see this here, that fancy microscope there, I bought to see are, you know, because I have ones that are pretty big. They're at least 6 or 7 times bigger than us. And I've had them DNA tested, and I checked the blood out of them, and I couldn't see any real significant increase in the size of the blood. Nothing I could really determine, but then again, it's nothing like the size of that thing. So maybe that's the difference. I don't know, because I also have heard that they have found viruses that are gigantic compared to the viruses that are in us, or viruses that are currently in circulation. These other viruses were, I think they call them giant viruses because they were just huge. Now, again, this stuff here is it sounds insane, and all my stuff sounded insane too. But this is the first I've ever heard of this. Now, you know, I've dug pretty deep, and this is the first I've heard of it, so I need some verification. If somebody can come up, you know, he's got a lot of details here, so if somebody can verify them, and again, I just had this for a few hours, so I haven't really dug as deep as I can, but I did look into it, and I didn't find much at all. So, you know, but I understand exactly what I'm looking at. If it was real, I know what it is. It was a lung.
Macrobacteria that live inside of the flesh pit. Like I said, if you want to check this out for yourself, there's a link down in the description, down to Trevor Roberts' Tumblr page, where he continually posts and will continue to post. Thank you all so much for watching.
All right, this is there's a link down here, and that's it right there. Now, and this is all you got to do is come up here. I don't have time to post links to everything because I do so much stuff. It's the Mystery Flesh Pit Timeline. Go up and look that up. It's on Roman MC channel. And because I forget to do that, and I guess I'm so interrupted so many times a day, I just forget all the things I'm supposed to do would make it nice and clean, but I guess you got to do some of your own work. Now, maybe we'll end it here, maybe I'll go a little further. Let's see. All right, if you think a gigantic creature and a gigantic dragon or any kind of gigantic creature could not exist, this is North Africa. This is a fish. You have Google Earth, come up and look at it. This is his vital flesh being attacked by a dragon who spit this stuff out, raining down onto that vital flesh and eating into it. This dragon is dead, decaying, with all of its effluence running out, and it was a red-blooded creature. You see the red blood? You see the red blood over here? Something cut its throat, and in some of the ancient texts it said that Zeus cut Typhon's throat with his great and mighty sword, which was the thunderbolts. That's cut, and that bled out in the desert. And this, my friends, is absolutely, no question whatsoever, a dragon. That is the head. This is the neck, and these are the dragon's scales that run all the way down his neck. You see this? This is the inside of his neck. You see it running all the way down? This is the outside of his neck, his armor. That's the armor that keeps him protected so that nobody could cut his neck. But guess who did? Zeus. It's exactly what it says. Zeus had a battle with the great serpent Typhon, who was created by Hera because she was mad at Zeus for making Athena. and Athena came right out of his forehead as a thought, right out of his forehead by himself, and she came out fully armored and ready to do battle out of his forehead. That's how freaked out this stuff was. It's absolutely insane. And there's no question right there. That's a gash. And this is on the ancient maps. They show this dragon and they show gash right there and his head cut off from the rest of them. Now, this died laying here, and this thing runs. This is not just this long. This is just barely getting to the body. There's the body right there. Look at the size of the body. There's the neck running. Here's the body. Here's the legs. And the tail runs all the way across North Africa, way back to here, this fluty stuff. You see this? These are the dragon scales back here. You see it? And that's all running off as well. That's the runoff from the dragon scales. Any dead decaying body will run off like that. The fluids in it. And it really flashes way, way out back to here. I believe this is the end of the flash they have on the very, very end of their tails. You see it? And it almost looks like feathers at the very end. Isn't that something? But anyway, this is just what they're talking about in Texas is just a tiny little, like a dot. So that dragon was not anything like this dragon. This dragon was Typhon, I believe. And all of this happened not long ago, because this was an ocean here, and it all drained out over the top of Atlantis, which is here, that collapsed. And this all ran out here and made the Cape Verde Islands as the mud ran out. And Plato said they never speak about mud again after this event. So much mud flowed out of the Sahara Ocean. And you could see it ran over the top of the fish. So all this stuff happened at the same time, in my mind. And the Sahara Ocean drained. And Atlantis had control over the Sahara Ocean because they owned the straits. Right there is the straits, you see? Right there, that's the straits that entered in. And that's what collapsed. It collapsed over here. And then the ocean ran out right out over here, and because Atlantis collapsed, I believe, and allowed this stuff to run out over the edge, and they lost the straits and they lost the ocean. Bad day for Atlantis. All right, so if you think that this could be impossible, well, think again. Get yourself up on Google Earth and look at a dragon, because there's one right there in front of you.